ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam thematic series. The first of the series is where we will be discussing Srimad Bhagavatam 111, 112 and 113, which discusses the subject of Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan. Yesterday we began the discussion on this, and we saw briefly the Bhagavatam as the Swarup of the Lord from the Padma Puran and the 10 topics of Bhagavatam. Then we actually began with the discussion on the just overview of chapter 1 and how Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is Vyasadev addressing the absolute truth. It is not part of the verse. And then we actually went into the verse of Janmadasya. And Prabhupada's commentary, we began the discussion, and this was the analysis we did, Swarup Lakshan and Tatastha Lakshan. And what is Swarup Lakshan and what is Tatastha Lakshan? For that, we went into the Sanatan Shiksha. So, Mahaprabhu himself explains the personal characteristics, Akriti. Satyam Param is the Swarup Lakshan, and Vishwa Shrishti Adi Kaila, these are all Tatastha Lakshan. Actually, the verse is, yes, Akriti, Prakriti, Swarupa Lakshan, and Karya Dwara Gyan, and the activities are the Tatastha Lakshan. So, yesterday we saw this, and then after that, we came back to Prabhupada's commentary. And yesterday we covered the first paragraph, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It is directly addressing Sri Krishna. Prabhupada emphatically proves that from the Bhagavatam, from the Krishna Sandarbha, Brahma Samhita, and from the Gopal Tapani Upanishads. And then again from the uh, Bhagavad Gita, Padma Puran. And although Vasudev indicates the plenary portion, and since all forms of Lord are non-different from the Lord, there is no difference between the avatari and the avatar. It is directly indicating the avatari, that is Sri Krishna. So this is where yesterday we completed our paragraph 1. So now let's go to paragraph 2. Yeah, please don't type anything on the chat box except if the audio is not working. If you have any questions, please do raise your hands. Don't type anything in the chat box that causes a distraction in the whole discussion. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. We will be sharing the PPTs in the group. Everyone will get the PPTs. Okay. Let's go to paragraph 2, where Prabhupada explains Janmada Yasya Yataha. Vasudev, or Lord Shri Krishna, is the cause of all causes. Everything that exists emanates from him. So here Prabhupada is very clearly explaining the first line of the verse. You can see how this is so is explained in later chapters of this work. So everything that exists emanates from the Lord. How this is so is explained in the later chapters of this work. Prabhupada especially is referring to the second canto and the third canto where the creation is explained. So how the creation emanates from the Lord, especially the Shrishti, the Sarga pastime, is elaborately discussed in the second and the third canto, and that's where Prabhupada is referring here. This work is described by Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya as a spotless Purana because it contains the transcendental narration of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The history of Srimad Bhagavatam is also very glorious. It was compiled by Srila Vyasadeva after he had attained maturity in transcendental knowledge. He wrote this under the instructions of Sri Naradji, his spiritual master. Vyasadeva compiled all Vedic literatures containing the 4 divisions of the Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sam, Athara, the Vedanta Sutras or the Brahma Sutras, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, and so on. But nevertheless, he was not satisfied. His dissatisfaction was observed by his spiritual master, and thus Narad advised him to write on the transcendental activities of Lord Sri Krishna. So, Prabhupada is again describing the glory of this Puran. Firstly, it was written by Vyasadeva in his spiritual maturity after compiling all the Vedic literatures. It was last of his works. And by that time, he had attained a lot of spiritual maturity. Secondly, he wrote this under the instruction of his spiritual master, Narad Muni. These transcendental activities are described specifically in the Bhagavatam's 10th canto, which is considered its substance. So, the Srimad Bhagavatam contains the transcendental activities of the Lord Shri Krishna, and these transcendental activities are described in the 10th canto, which is called as the substance. But in order to reach the very substance, one must proceed gradually by developing the knowledge of the categories. So, what does Prabhupada mean when he makes this statement? In order to reach to the very substance, one must proceed gradually by developing knowledge of the categories. Anyone would like to share what does it mean? In order to reach the substance, one has to proceed gradually by developing the knowledge of the categories. What does he mean by this statement? Anyone? Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandotna. It means, Prabhu, that uh, uh, we must go through Bhagavatam from canto wise. I mean, canto 1, 2, 3. That way we should go to canto 10.
Yes. The real substance is Avatari Krishna's pastimes in the 10th canto. But there are various avatars beginning from Vara avatar in the 3rd canto. So all these are avatars who are also emanating from the Avatari Krishna, and these are called as the categories. So canto by canto, one should proceed chapter by chapter and ultimately come to the 10th canto. So that's what Prabhupada means. Okay, so the next paragraph, Prabhupada continues with the discussion on Janmadaya Yata. It is natural that a philosophical mind wants to know about the origin of the creation. At night, he sees the stars in the sky and he naturally speculates about their inhabitants. Such enquiries are natural for man because man has a developed consciousness which is higher than that of the animals. So, when you see the night sky, a philosophical mind will wonder where has this creation come from? So, this is a philosophical inquiry. And Vyasadev is directly giving the answer for it. Janmadayasya yatha. The author of Srimad Bhagavatam gives a direct answer to such inquiries. He says that Lord Sri Krishna is the origin of all creations. Janma. He's not only the creator of the universe, but the destroyer as well. So I mentioned Janmadi refers to creation, maintenance, and destruction. The manifested cosmic nature is created at a certain period by the will of the Lord. It is maintained for some time and then it is annihilated by His will. Therefore, the supreme will is behind all cosmic activities. So, Prabhupada, in one sense, is answering Janmadi, creation, maintenance, and destruction. And the creation happens by the will of the Lord, the maintenance happens just by the will of the Lord, and the destruction happens by the will of the Lord. So everything, therefore Prabhupada is saying the supreme will is behind all cosmic activities. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his bhajan brings out very nicely this. Tava ichha matre shishti, tava ichha matre kore palan, tava ichha matre hoye samvar, tava ichha. So it is happening by the will of the Lord. Of course, there are atheists of various categories who do not believe in the Creator, but that is due to a poor fund of the knowledge. The modern scientist, for example, has created space satellites, and by some arrangement or other, these satellites are thrown into outer space to fly for some time at the control of the scientist who is far away. Similarly, all the universes with innumerable stars and planets are controlled by the intelligence of the personality of Godhead. So here Prabhupada, the atheists don't believe in a creator, but he gives an example of the modern scientist who throw space satellites and control them in the space stations. And similarly, Prabhupada says the universes and the stars and the planets are controlled by the intelligence of the Lord. Next paragraph, Satyam Param. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hands to ask. I'll just go through the purports line by line. In the Vedic literatures, it is said that the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, is the chief amongst all living personalities. So, where this is mentioned in the Vedic literature, where in the Shrutis is this mentioned? Anyone knows? Raise your hands. We should all mark wherever Prabhupada is mentioning this. What is the reference Prabhupada is giving? We should have that reference with us. That's how systematic study beats. So which verse is Prabhupada referring to here? One hand has been. Yes, Lakshmi Narsimhan Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I'm not sure, but he said Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Yako Bahunam Vidadati Kamati.
Yes, it is exactly Nityo Nityanam. Prabhupada is referring to the Katha Upanishads. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidhati Kaman Tamatmastam Ya Anupashyanti Dhiras Desham Shantim Shaswati Netaresham. So he's referring to this verse. So please mark in your textbooks. All living beings, beginning from the first created being, Brahma, down to the smallest ant, are all individual living beings. And above Brahma, there are even other living beings with individual capacities. And the personality of Godhead is also a similarly living being. And he is an individual, as are the other living beings. But the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Living Being has the greatest intelligence, and he possesses supermost inconceivable energies of all different varieties. So we are also individuals, the Lord is also individual, but the Lord is the supreme individual and the supreme living being. And this is what Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbhas proves, that the Lord has inconceivable energies, Achintya Shakti. As long as you don't accept the Achintya Shakti, then you cannot understand the absolute truth. So, because this creation is just emanating because of the inconceivable potency of the Lord, just from the pores of the hair pores of the Lord's body, universes are coming. And this is happening because of the Achintya Shakti which the Lord possesses. And this is the difference between the Jiva and the Lord. The Jiva cannot produce universes. Maybe he can produce planets like Kardamuni did, but he cannot produce universes. Because the Lord, although he is an individual, he possesses inconceivable energies. Further, if a man's brain can produce a space satellite, one can easily imagine how brains higher than a man can produce similar wonderful things which are far superior. So this is a very logical argument. Prabhupada is saying, if a man's brain can produce a satellite, then higher brains can produce higher things. The reasonable person will easily accept this argument, but there are stubborn atheists who would never agree. Srila Vyasadeva, however, at once accepts the supreme intelligence as Parmeshwar. He offers his respectful obeisances unto the supreme intelligence, addressed as the Para or the Parmeshwar or the supreme personality of Godhead. Satyam Param. So Satyam Param Dhimai. I offer my obeisances to the absolute truth. And that Parmeshwar Sri Krishna, as admitted in the Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures delivered by Srila Vyasadeva, and specifically in this Srimad Bhagavatam, that Parmeshwar is Sri Krishna, who is admitted in the Gita, other scriptures, and specifically in the Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that there is no other Paratattva Samambanam than himself. So this is the reference. Matta Paratram Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva at once worships the Parantattva, Sri Krishna, whose transcendental activities are described in the 10th canto. Yeah. Okay, now the next paragraph, Prabhupada mentioned about how his transcendental activities are described in the 10th canto. Now her caution regarding the 10th canto, because the focus was on the substance, but first one has to go to the categories. So Prabhupada gives a warning in paragraph 5, a caution. Unscrupulous persons go immediately to the 10th canto and especially to the 5 chapters which describe the Lord's rasa dance. This portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the most confidential part of this great literature. Now, Prabhupada is saying here, very interesting, unless one is thoroughly accomplished in transcendental knowledge of the Lord. So, unless one is thoroughly studied the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, one is sure to must understand the Lord's worshipable transcendental pastimes called rasa dance and his loving affairs with the gopis. So, how will one get accomplished in the transcendental knowledge of the Lord? Because until then, one cannot understand this confidential pastimes which he performs uh, with the gopis. So, how can one become accomplished in transcendental knowledge of the Lord? What is the way? Anyone knows? Raise your hands. Anyone? Because one should thoroughly be accomplished in the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, and then only he can understand the Ras Leela pastimes. So how is it possible that we can get accomplished in the transcendental knowledge of the Lord? Anyone? Tirthpad Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Prabhu. Prabhuji, just a guess, Prabhu. Maybe under the instruction of Guru, following the devotion practice and attaining the supreme goal, that lotus feet of.
Not to the point. Anil Prabhuji, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One is like we need to surrender and hear from Vaishnavas about
What we should hear?
about the first 9 chapters and all
First
the
9 cantos. First 9
and
cantos.
first 9 cantos, and have the proper knowledge of it, so that our mind should be purified. Uh, uh, After understanding this, then only we can understand this part of what you have mentioned here.
Yes,
This is
yes. Yes, correct. So basically, the Lord's antaranga pastimes, the pastimes which he performs under the internal potency, which are all described in the 10 canto. Before we go into that, we should study the Lord's pastimes with Maya, especially his Shrishti Leela pastimes. So the Virata Purusha concept, right in the first canto, second canto, third canto, fifth canto, many times it comes, and it's so difficult to understand the subject. So the more one understands how the Lord is great, that how the Lord creates this universe, and then especially the avatars of the Lord, right from Vara avatar, then one can appreciate, oh, this Krishna, he is the avatari of all other avatars. Vara avatar lifted the earth. So all these Herculean tasks, which is all other avatars are, then they will not consider Krishna as an ordinary person. And then they will not misunderstand Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. So Srila Vishwanath Chakra Thakur mentions that one should thoroughly understand the Shrishti Leela, and then only one can understand the Rasa Leela, he says. So that's why one should thoroughly study the Lord's pastimes with Maya, especially the creation pastimes. This subject matter is highly spiritual, and only the liberated persons who have gradually attained the stage of Paramhamsa can transcendentally relish this rasa dance. So, firstly, the subject matter is not material, it is highly spiritual. Secondly, only liberated persons who have attained the Paramhamsa stage can relish this rasa dance. Srila Vyasadeva therefore gives the reader the chance to gradually develop spiritual realization before actually relishing the essence of the pastimes of the Lord. So our goal is to reach the substance. And Vyasadeva has systematically, right from the first canto, given the categories so that we can gradually develop the spiritual realizations in order to relish it. So in paragraph 5, Prabhupada speaks about Dhimahi. Therefore, he purposefully invokes the Gayatri mantra Dhimahi, Satyam Param Dhimahi. This Gayatri mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people. So by chanting this Gayatri mantra, we can spiritually advance. Now, how in this verse, Satyam Param Dhimahi indicates the Gayatri mantra is a subject which is very difficult to actually figure out from the Bhagavatam verse. But when we go to Jiva Goswami's commentary, that time Jiva Goswami will give us an idea, and that time we will cover that. But there is an invocation of the Gayatri mantra in the first verse. That suffice now to understand. But definitely when we go to Jiva Goswami's commentary, I will bring out that. When one is successful in chanting the Gayatri mantra, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must therefore acquire Brahminical qualities or be perfectly situated in the quality of goodness in order to chant the Gayatri mantra successfully and then attain to the stage of transcendentally realizing the Lord, His name, His fame, His qualities, and so on. So this is the method that one has to come to the mode of goodness. One has to become dhira, sober, and then only he can understand these activities of the Lord in the 10th canto. Okay. Now paragraph 6. Now we spoke, if you remember, about the concept of Swarupa Lakshan and Tatastha Lakshan. Now, Prabhupada is going to speak about that in his purport also. We might think, where Prabhupada in the purport has spoken about it. Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration of the Swarup of the Lord manifested by his internal potency. And this potency is distinguished from the external potency which has manifested the cosmic world, which is within our experience. Now, please point out to me where is the Swarup Lakshan mentioned in this statement and where is the Tatastha Lakshan mentioned in this statement. I've clearly marked it, but still I would like to know from the devotees how much they could understand what is Swarup Lakshan and what is Tatastha Lakshan. Yes, Anil Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Swarup Lakshan is the internal potency, the one screenshot what you had given on the left side.
Yes.
And all the external this potency was mentioned onto the right side. Just
Yeah.
I will, one minute. Yeah.
Yeah. See, there is the form of the Lord which is manifested by his internal potency. That is the Swarup Lakshan. And the Lord, in his Vasudev feature,
like Param Satyam. Param Satyam.
Got it. So the Lord, in the form of the external potency, creates these universes. So that creation of the Karya, activities of the Lord, belong to the Tatastha Lakshan, that is manifestation of these cosmic universes. So that's how you can see in Prabhupada's purport, there is the Swarup Lakshan and the Tatastha Lakshan mentioned. Here again, Dhamna Svena Sada Nirastakum, who is eternally existent in his transcendental Apollo by his internal potency. This is the Swarup Lakshan. And Janma Desayata, that is a Tatastha Lakshan, because the Lord unites with the Bhairanga Shakti in order to create these universes. These are the Tatastha Lakshan. So you can see how Prabhupada has mentioned about this. Srila Vyasadeva makes a clear distinction between the two in the shloka, between the internal and between the Swarup Lakshan and the Tatastha Lakshan. Srila Vyasadeva says herein that the manifested internal potency is real, whereas the external manifested energy in the form of material existence is only temporary and illusory, like the mirage in the desert. So this first three lines of the verses, Janma Desayata Anvayaditarasso Charteshu Abhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hridayadi Kavaye Muyanti Yat Surya Tejo Varim Mridam Yatra Trisargo Mrisham. So these three lines of the verses speak about the external potency or the Tatastha Lakshan. And the last, Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi, speak about the internal potency or the Swarupa Lakshan. So there is a clear distinction, and what is manifested by the internal potency is real. What is manifested by the external potency is temporary and illusory. In the desert mirage, there is actually no water. There is only the appearance of water. I'll just take, once I finish this paragraph. Real water is somewhere else. The manifested cosmic creation appears as reality. But reality, of which this is but a shadow, is in the spiritual world. Absolute truth is in the spiritual sky, not in the material sky. In the material sky, everything is relative truth. That is to say, one truth depends on something else. This cosmic creation results from interaction of the three modes of nature, and the temporary manifestations are so created as to present an illusion of reality to the bewildered mind of the conditioned soul, who appears in so many species of life, including the higher demigods like Brahma, Indra, Chandra, and so on. And so on. So, Trisargo Mrisha. Trisargom refers to the three modes. The whole material world is a manifestation of the three modes, and it is illusionary, Mrisha. And it appears like real, but it is just a shadow. In actuality, there is no reality in the manifested world. There appears to be a reality, however, because of true reality which exists in the spiritual world, where the personality of Godhead eternally exists with his transcendental paraphernalia. So this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So we know that. Okay. So any questions up till now about Swarup Lakshan and Tatastha Lakshan, which Prabhupada dealt in this paragraph 6? Yeah, any questions? Somebody had raised their hand. Any questions? Yes, Anil Prabhuji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna. If we simplify, can we say Swarup Lakshan as the Shashvat and the Tatastha Lakshan as the temporary features, which will get demolished one day by the will of God only?
What's your question?
My question, I am saying you have explained in detail Swarup Lakshan and Tatastha Lakshan both. If we conclude Swarup Lakshans as the Shashvat and Tatastha Lakshan as the temporary things,
Yeah, the Swarup
is it right?
Lakshan is the reality which is manifested by the internal potency, And the Tatastha Lakshan is not the reality. It is illusionary, it is temporary, and it is manifested by the external potency. That's how we can conclude. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Any other questions anyone has? Okay, so let's go to the next paragraph. We have discussed the Swarupa and the Tatastha Lakshan. Virendra Yadav has a question. Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dhanvatma. Prabhu, can we say really that this external and internal potency both are separate energy, or they are same energy but in different features?
Yeah, they are different energies because the internal potency manifests the spiritual world, the external potency manifests the material world, and the material world is just a shadow of the reflection of the reality of the spiritual world, and that's why there is a difference. The external potency is inert; it is not conscious. Bhumi rapo analo vayu kham manor buddhirevacha ahankar ityam me bhinna prakriti ashtada. So there is a distinction between matter and spirit. So we have to have that understanding and knowledge. For the Lord, from his perspective, it is one. For him, it is not doesn't make difference. But for us who are Tatastha Shakti, who are caught up in the Bhairanga Shakti, for us it makes a lot of difference. So that's why we have to have this distinction and understanding. And it is that one energy. Prabhupada explains, how electricity, when it passes through a refrigerator, it cools the substance, and when it passes through a heater, it heats. So like that, that one energy manifests in different ways. So there are unlimited energies of the Lord, and the principle are these three. So yes, there is difference. At the same time, there is oneness also. There is simultaneous oneness and difference. That is Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. Is it clear, Prabhu?
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to next paragraph. Paragraph 7, Prabhupada speaks about Anvayad Itarastha, directly and indirectly. The chief engineer of a complicated construction does not personally take part in the construction, but he knows every nook and corner because everything is done under his direction. So the chief engineer conceives the project, he designs it, and then he gives it to the engineers to execute the construction. So the whole construction is compared to the creation of the universe. So the chief engineer directly and indirectly knows every nook and corner what is happening. My uncle was a chief engineer in a shipping company, and he was telling me how he used to sit in his office, and the engineer on the ship used to call that this part of the engine there is some noise, and he used to tell, okay, go to that unit, go to that bolt and tighten that bolt. He knew every nook and corner of the ship because he is a chief engineer. So similarly, Prabhupada is giving this example. He knows everything about the construction, both directly and indirectly. Anvayad itara. Similarly, now Prabhupada is giving this example, and he's giving a similarity. The personality of Godhead, who is the supreme engineer of this cosmic creation, knows every nook and corner, although affairs are apparently being carried out by the demigods. Beginning from Brahma down to an insignificant ant, no one is independent in the matter of material creation. The hand of the Lord is seen everywhere. All material elements, as well as spiritual sparks, emanate from Him only. So, where in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada speaks about, Krishna speaks about this, that all material elements as well as spiritual sparks emanate from Him. Anyone who can give me the reference? Please sit with your Srimad Bhagavatam books and mark all these. That's how we have to systematically study the Bhaktivedanta purports. So where it is mentioned, all material elements as well as spiritual sparks emanate from him only. Where in the Gita it is mentioned. Yes, Lakshmi, Narasimhan, Prabhuji.
I'll just give it a try, Prabhuji. Aham sarvasya prabhava mapta sarvam pravartate.
Oh, well, that's a general principle, but specifically the material element and the spiritual sparks, where it is mentioned. Vinita Mataji. Yes. Yes, Mataji. I've unmuted you.
Krishna.
Yeah, your voice is
Hare
breaking.
Krishna.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji.
Daivi Sagamai.
No, no. Tirthpath Prabhuji. I think devotees have to study the Gita thoroughly, left to right, top to bottom. Yes, Tirthpath Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranam. Matta paratram nanyat kinchit asti
No,
Dharmaja.
no, no, no.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I don't remember the shlok number, but it's like in my directions, this
No, that is not
Paratri.
the verse. That is not the verse. Maya Dakshina Prakriti 9.10.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not the verse. What happened to all the Gita study? So we are referring to 7.4 and 7.5. Bhumi Rapo Analo Vayu Kham Manor Buddhi Revacha Ahankaritiyam Me Bhinna Prakriti Ashtada. So all material elements are emanating from him. And then spiritual sparks. Apramitastvanyam Prakritim Vidyam Me Param Jiva Bhutam Mahabhavo Edam Dharite Jagat. And here in 7.6, Etad Yonini Bhutani. So all these both, sources of these two natures, the material nature and the spiritual sparks, Krishna is the source of it. He is origin and dissolution of it. So Prabhupada is referring here to 7.4, 5, and 6. And whatever is created in this material world is but the interaction of the two energies, the material and the spiritual, which emanate from the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. 7.6. There is no truth superior to me, that is Matta Paratran Nanyat. A chemist, now Prabhupada gives an example to substantiate this statement. A chemist can manufacture water in a chemical laboratory by mixing hydrogen and oxygen. But in reality, the living entity works in the laboratory under the direction of the Supreme Lord. So the hydrogen and oxygen are the material elements, and the living spark is the living entity. So by the combination of both this, there is some creation. All the materials with which he works are also supplied by the Lord. So the living entity is working under the direction of the Lord. The material elements are supplied by the Lord. The Lord knows everything directly and indirectly, and he is cognizant of all minute details and is fully independent. Swarat is fully independent. He is compared to a mine of gold, and the cosmic creations in so many different forms are compared to objects made of gold, such as gold rings, necklaces, and so on. The gold ring and the gold necklace are qualitatively one with the gold in the mine, but quantitatively, the gold in the mine is different. Therefore, the absolute truth is simultaneously one and different. So here, Prabhupada is mentioning how the absolute truth is non-different from his creation. non-different from his creation. Achinta Beda Beda Tattva. Nothing is absolutely equal with the absolute truth, but at the same time, nothing is independent of the absolute truth. Conditioned souls, beginning from Brahma, who engineers the universe down to an insignificant ant, are all creating, but none of them are independent of the Supreme Lord. They are all dependent. Nityo Nityanam, Chetanas, Chetananam. The materialist wrongly thinks that there is no creator other than his own self. So this is so foolish, You might create a small aeroplane or you might create a car and you think you're a great creator. The intelligence given to create is given by the Lord. The material elements are supplied by the Lord. So what do you have to be proud of? This is called Maya or illusion, when we think there is no creator other than myself. Because of this poor fund of knowledge, the materialist cannot see beyond the purview of his imperfect senses, and thus he thinks that matter automatically takes its own shape without the aid of a superior intelligence. This is refuted in the shloka by Srila Vyasadeva. Since the complete whole or the absolute truth is the source of everything, nothing can be independent of the body of the absolute truth. Satyam Param, Janmadhyasyata, everything is created by the absolute truth. Whatever happens in the body quickly becomes known to the embodied. Very beautiful example, Anvayaditara, to explain. Suppose on our body, uh, there is the, you can say, there is the, a small ant which is crawling. So we become conscious indirectly that there is an ant crawling, or we can see on our hand, oh, there is an ant crawling. In fact, there was one, small, you can say a millipede crawling just now on my hand. So you see that and you realize, oh, there is a ant which is crawling on my hand. So you can directly become conscious or indirectly become conscious about it, because when the ant is crawling, you can feel it. You are conscious indirectly, oh, something is moving on my body. So whatever happens to the body quickly becomes known to the embodied. So similarly, this whole universe is like the body of the Lord. And the Lord is both conscious directly or indirectly. Similarly, the creation is the body of the absolute truth. So that's how, the Lord is all cognizant. Everything in this creation is known to him. Therefore, the absolute truth knows everything directly and indirectly that happens in the creation. So we can imagine the cognizance of the Lord. Brahmaji, he is cognizant, but partially. He is cognizant of whatever is happening in the 14 planetary systems. Above him is Lord Shiva, who has more cognizance of what is happening, in the universe. And above them is Krishna or Vasudev, who is cognizant of everything happening in the unlimited universes, because these unlimited universes are emanating from the body of the Lord and is either directly or indirectly cognizant about it. Okay. Any questions up till now? Anvayaditara? Any questions? Any clarifications? I hope it is clear, this point. Anvayaditarasta. Yes, Anil Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, what does it mean, cognizance in this case? Means Brahma is...
Cognizance means we have to be aware, or you're conscious.
Okay.
You're conscious about, you know what is happening.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandatna. Prabhu,
Yes.
here indirectly refers to through his subordinates, cognizance
Pardon?
through indirectly cognizance. Does it refers to cognizance through his subordinates like
No,
Brahma,
no, no,
Vishnu?
no, 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 no. I gave the example of an ant crawling on your body. You might not directly see the ant, but you become aware, oh, something is crawling in my body. Indirectly, you're aware. When you see it directly, oh, there is an ant, I can see. So that is direct cognizance. So the Lord is directly and indirectly, cognizant or aware about everything what is happening in this whole creation. Just like the engineer is directly and indirectly aware of everything what is happening in the construction site. He might be sitting here in his room and you know just meeting the engineers. He knows up till where the plinth level the slab is there. He has not visited the site, but he is aware based on the plan, based on the engineers who are giving him the inputs. And when he goes to the site and directly sees, then he sees, oh, there is a slab up till the plinth level. So that is direct cognizance. And sitting in his office with the plan is indirectly cognizant also, like that. Is it clear?
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So let's go now to the next paragraph. Paragraph 9. Prabhupada speaks about Janmadhyasya Yata and then Tene Brahma Ridha Ya Adi Kavaye. In the Shruti mantra, it is also stated that the absolute whole or Brahman is the ultimate source of everything. Now, which exactly verse Prabhupada in the Shruti mantras is referring has to be found out through some research. And definitely Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes in his commentary, then it will become clear how, he is referring to some Upanishadic verse here. He is not given the quotation, but it is our duty to find out. And let us see when we go to Vishnu Chakravarti commentary, which verse exactly Prabhupada is referring, we'll come to know. Everything emanates from him, everything is maintained by him, and at the end, everything enters into him. And I'm speculating. This is, there is one verse in the Upanishads. I will find out and then give the reference. Yes, Lakshmi Narasimhan Prabhuji, you have the
Hare
verse.
Krishna. I think it's from Taittiriya Upanishad. After
What is?
speaking all the level of consciousness, it speaks about the Brahma Pucham Pratishtha.
No, no, no. It's not referring there that Yato Mam Imani Bhutani Yato Jayano. That is the verse I feel is Prabhupada quoting here. It's not um, referring there to those different koshas, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, and there. I think it is not referring there, at least I feel. The verse exactly is, I'll find out and I'll let you all know. Okay. This is the law of nature. In the Shruti mantra, in the Smriti mantra, the same is confirmed. So in the Shruti mantra, it is mentioned that everything emanates, everything is maintained by him, and everything is enters into him. And this is same confirmed in the Shruti mantra, and that refers to this Srimad Bhagavatam verse 111. It is said there that the source from which everything emanates at the beginning of Brahma's millennium and the reservoir to which everything ultimately enters is the absolute truth or Brahman. So it is said there means it is said there in the Shruti mantra. Material scientists take it for granted that the ultimate source of the planetary system is the sun, but they are unable to explain the source of sun. They say everything, all the energy completely comes from the sun. But what is the source of sun then? Herein, the ultimate source is explained. The ultimate sources, it is coming from, the Lord. The whole creation is coming from the Lord. According to Vedic literature, Brahma is the creator of this universe. Yet he had to meditate to get inspiration for such creation. Therefore, neither Brahma nor the sun is the ultimate creator. So when we go to Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti will give a Purva Paksha. Is Brahma the source of everything? And then he'll refute that and prove. So there it will become more emphatic. It is stated in the shloka that Brahma was taught Vedic knowledge by the personality of Godhead. So in this shloka, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikave. So Brahma cannot be the ultimate source of everything. One may argue that Brahma, being the original living being, could not have been inspired because there was no other living being at that time. Herein it is stated that the Supreme Lord inspired the secondary creator Brahma in order that Brahma could carry out his creative functions. So the supreme intelligence behind all creations is the absolute Godhead, Sri Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna states that it is he alone who superintends the creative energy Prakriti, which constitutes the totality of matter. So he superintends Maya Dakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharan. So here I have marked this in blue. And you all also can mark in your Srimad Bhagavatam book. It is 9.10. Therefore, Srila Vyasdev does not worship Brahma, but the Supreme Lord who guides Brahma in his creative activities. Satyam Param Dhimayi. He worships the Parameshwar, who even guides Brahma. Now, part of paragraph 9, Prabhupada speaks about Abhigya and Swarat. In this shloka, the particular word Abhigya and Swarat are significant. These two words distinguish the Supreme Lord from all other living entities. No other living entity is either Abhigya or Swarat. That is, no one is either fully cognizant or fully independent. Nobody can say I'm fully cognizant of everything in this creation. I'm not even cognizant what is happening inside my body. And we are not independent. We are fully dependent. Even Brahma has to meditate on the Supreme Lord in order to create. Then what to speak of great scientists like Einstein? The brains of such a scientist are certainly not the products of any human being. Scientists cannot manufacture such a brain, and what to speak of foolish atheists who defy the authority of the Lord. Even Mayavadi impersonalists who flatter themselves that they can become one with the Lord are neither Abhigya or Swarat. Such impersonalists undergo severe austerities to acquire knowledge to become one with the Lord. But ultimately, they become dependent on some rich disciples who supplies them with money to build monasteries and temples. Atheists like Ravana or Hiranyakashipu had to undergo severe penances before they could flout the authority of the Lord. But ultimately, they were rendered helpless and could not save themselves when the Lord appeared before them as cruel death. So nobody is independent. Even Ravana wanted to declare independence, even Hiranyakashipu, but they were killed by the Lord. This is also the case with modern atheists who also dare to flout the authority of the Lord. With their modern inventions and modern technology, they want to dare to challenge the Lord. Such atheists will be dealt with similarly, for history repeats itself. Whenever man neglects the authority of the Lord, nature and her laws are there to penalize them. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita in the well-known verse, Yada Yadahi Dharmasya Glani. Whenever there is a decline of Dharma and a rise of Adharma, O Arjuna, I incarnate myself. Okay, Abhigyan Swaraj Prabhupada has dealt here in paragraph 9. Now let's go to paragraph 10. Janmadi further explained. So in paragraph 10, Prabhupada is again further explaining Janmadi. That the Supreme Lord is all perfect is confirmed in all Shruti mantras. It is said in the Shruti mantras that the all perfect Lord threw a glance over matter and thus created all living beings. Sa ikshate. This is the Shruti mantra Prabhupada is in. Eko bahusyam. He desired to become many. The living beings are part and parcels of the Lord, and He impregnates the vast material creation with seeds of spiritual sparks, and thus the creative energies are set in motion to enact so many wonderful creations. An atheist may argue that God is no more expert than a watchmaker, but of course, God is greater because He can create machines and duplicate male and female forms. The male and female forms of different types of machineries go on producing innumerable similar machines without God's further attention. So if you can create a machine, say a male and a female unit, and they on their own unite and create more units automatically, then you can approach the intelligence of God, Prabhupada says. If a man could manufacture such a set of machines that could produce produce other machines without his attention, then he could approach the intelligence of God. But that is not possible, for each machine has to be handled individually. Therefore, no one can create as well as God. Another name of God is Asamurdva, which means no one is equal to or greater than Him. Param Satyam, or the supreme truth, is He who has no equal or superior. This is confirmed in the Shruti mantras. Now, where again Prabhupada is mentioning that this is confirmed, we'll have to find the reference in the Shruti mantras. It is said that before the creation of the material universe, there existed the Lord only, who is the master of everyone. Yes, this mantra I remember. And again, I'll find the reference from Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary and we will give you. That Lord instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge, that the Lord has to be obeyed in all respects. Anyone who wants to get rid of material entanglement must surrender unto Him. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. So, one who has to come out of Maya, he has to surrender unto the Lord. So, where it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita? Anyone? Where it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita? Who will answer this? Yes, Anil Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the Sarv Dharman Parityajya.
No. That is also a verse of surrender, but we want the exact reference. Yes, Lakshmi Narasimhan Prabhuji.
माम् एव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायां एतां तरन्ति ते.
Yeah, Devi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durataya 7.14. Please mark. Unless, now this is the next paragraph. Prabhupada speaks about Muyanti Yat Suraya. In brief, unless one surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord, it is certain that he will be bewildered. Muyanti Yat Suraya. When an intelligent man surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna and knows completely that Krishna is the cause of all causes, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhu, then only such an intelligent man can become a Mahatma or a great soul. But such a great soul is rarely seen. Bhavunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sahamatma Sudurlabha. Only the Mahatmas can understand the Supreme Lord is the primeval cause of all creations. He is Parama, or the ultimate truth, because all other truths are relative to him. He is omniscient. From him, there is no illusion. So, in brief, Prabhupada in paragraph 11 speaks about Muyanti at Surya. How you can become free from illusion? By surrender. In paragraph 12, Prabhupada speaks about the authority of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is quite brief, and I'll just touch this and finish the purport. We will just take few more minutes so that we can finish Prabhupada's commentary. Some Mayavadi scholars argue that Srimad Bhagavatam was not compiled by Vyasdev, and some of them suggest that this book is a modern creation written by someone named Vopadev. In order to refute such meaningless arguments, Srila Sridhar Swami points out that there is reference to Bhagavatam in many of the oldest Purans, especially the Matsya Puran. The first shloka of the Bhagavatam begins with the Gayatri Mantra. There is reference to this in the Matsya Puran, which is the oldest Puran. In that Puran, it is said about the Bhagavatam that in it there are many narrations of spiritual instruction, that it begins with Gayatri Mantra, and that it contains the history of Vritrasura. In the Tattva Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami quotes all these verses and emphatically proves the superiority of Srimad Bhagavatam as the highest Praman. Anyone who makes a gift of this great work on the full moon day attains to the highest perfection of life by returning to Godhead. There is a reference to the Bhagavatam in other Puranas also, where it is said clearly that this work was finished in 12 cantos, which include 18,000 shlokas. So Skanda Puran quotes this, how there are 12 cantos and 18,000 shlokas. In the Padma Puran, there is a reference to the Bhagavatam in which, in a conversation between Gautama and Maharaj Ambarish, the king was advised therein to read regularly Srimad Bhagavatam if he desired liberation from material bondage. So about the authority of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada quotes the Matsya Puran, which is the Puran. Then he quotes the Skanda Puran, where it is not mentioned here, but this is Skanda Puran, and the Padma Puran, where there's a conversation of the Gautam Maharaj between Gautam Rishi and Maharaj Amrish, to prove that it is not a recent creation. Under the circumstances, there is no doubt about the authority of the Bhagavatam. Within the past 500 years, many erudite scholars and acharyas like Jiva Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Vallabhacharya, and many other distinguished scholars, even after the time of Lord Chaitanya, made elaborate commentaries on the Bhagavatam. And here he says, and the serious student would do well to attempt to go through them to better relish the transcendental messages. So Prabhupada, right in the first purport, is mentioning how one should study even the Acharya's commentaries to relish the transcendental message of Bhagavatam. But of course, to study the Acharya's commentaries, one should thoroughly study the Bhaktivedanta purports for many times, many years. And then with the blessings of the spiritual masters, study the Acharya's commentaries. Now, the last of the last paragraphs, Prabhupada speaks about the Adi Ras, the original rasa. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur specifically deals with the original and the pure sex psychology, Adi Rasa, devoid of all mundane inebriety. The whole material creation is moving under the principle of sex life. In fact, everything what you see in this material creation, anything you create is for enjoyment. And that means sex, it is. In modern civilization, sex life is the focal point of all activities. Wherever one turns his face, he sees sex life predominant. Therefore, sex life is not unreal. In reality, its reality is experienced in the spiritual world. The material sex life is but a perverted reflection of the original fact. The original fact is there in the absolute truth, and thus the absolute truth cannot be impersonal. So original Adi Rasa is there. The Lord is Akhila Rasamrit Murti. It is not possible to be impersonal and contain pure sex life. Consequently, the impersonalist philosophers have given indirect impetus to the abominable mundane sex life because they have overstressed the impersonality of the ultimate truth. Because they have mentioned that the ultimate truth is impersonal, so they have given more emphasis on abominable sex life in the material world. Consequently, man without information of actual spiritual form of sex has accepted perverted material sex life as all in all. There is a distinction between sex life in the diseased material condition and the spiritual sex life. So this is about the Adi Rasa. Prabhupada right in the beginning is pointing out to the root of the problem in this material existence. Now this is the last paragraph. Prabhupada concludes. This Srimad Bhagavatam will gradually elevate the unbiased reader to the highest perfectional stage of transcendence. It will enable him to transcend the three modes of material activities: fruitive actions, karmakand, speculative philosophy, jnanakand, and worship of functional deities as inculcated in the Vedic verses. That is upasana kand, and it will recommend the highest upasana in the form of the absolute truth. Okay, so that ends Prabhupada's commentary on 111. So tomorrow onwards, we will begin the commentary by Vishwanath Chakra Thakur, which will take at least maybe 8-10 classes. I think so. At least 8 classes it will take. Any questions, any clarifications? Okay, one question. Yes, Anil Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this one example of Kathopanishad which we had taken, that is,
Nityanam.
yeah, that is indicating what actually I could not capture
Okay,
that.
you'll have to go to the verse. There is one eternal and there are unlimited eternals. There is one supreme consciousness and there are unlimited individual consciousness. And that one is, maintaining or taking care of all the other eternals. There is one singular and plural. The singular is the
Okay.
absolute truth.
Okay. Can you share the portion what we have studied today for the PPT? So
I will
that we
share
can...
the slides. I will share the slides.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Sunita Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji,
Yes,
I
yes.
have a question. I'm not able to realize this concept about how the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. I'm not able to realize this. How to realize it?
Well, it's very simple that in the material world you see a mirage, and in the mirage you see there is water, and you can see, but it is illusion. Similarly, this whole material world, you are trying to, relish rasa, and whatever it is, all rasa boils down to, its enjoyment and its sex. But there is the original rasa. This is perverted. This is shadow. The original is there because the Lord is eternal in the spiritual world, and His form is eternal, manifested from the Antaranga Shakti, and there is the original rasa there. So ultimately, we have to, turn our face towards the Lord. Or a simple example to give, that you see a mango tree reflection falling on the lake, and you go in the lake and you can see actually the mango fruit, and you try to pick the mango fruit from the lake. You cannot catch it because although you can see the mango there, it is a reflection. The original mango is there on the tree. You will have to come out of the lake and then climb the tree and pick up the mango. There is rasa in mango. So similarly, This material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. I hope it is clear.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. So I just figured out that until and unless we realize the ultimate truth, the actual
That illusion is that lake where we are seeing in the lake. Our focus is in the lake where we are seeing the mango and the tree, and we are caught up. Our focus is here in the material world, and this lake is existing because of our desire. Once we become free from all desires, then this illusion, is no more existing. It's no more existing. Okay.
with realization, the illusion will disappear.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much. We just shot up a little more, but I wanted to finish the commentary of Srila Prabhupada so that tomorrow we can start with Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Rantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.